Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Tagliaferro, and thank you so much for coming back to stage one. So, we're going to be diving into data driven creativity, bridging the gaps between analytics and business growth. Let me see if I do this. Okay. So, we're going to go into an introduction of why data driven creativity matters, strategic branding essentials, data foundations for marketers, integrated strategy, and your roadmap, and a little Q&A. Hopefully, you have questions at the end. So a little background of like why am I here on stage? So Andrea Tagliaferro, yeah, you said it right. I actually am Venezuelan, so I butcher my last name. That's in Italian. I founded Yacht Femme, and I'm also director of marketing for Navier. So Yacht Femme is um, an association, now a media platform where we work to elevate women and empower them in the yachting industry. And Navier, a company that does electric buoys on hydrofoils. How did I get here? A little context. I'm actually Venezuelan. I'm an architect. I have a master's in interior design. The only reason I'm in this industry is because I was living in Florida. You couldn't throw a rock without hitting someone in the yachting industry. From there, from yachting as a shipbuilder, as a yacht designer, I pivoted to digital marketing. The construction world wasn't the most welcoming for a woman to look like me. And then I taught myself digital marketing. That's where I am now. Yeah, so that's that. So data. I don't know if anyone here is in the audience as a marketer, but when I started, I learned what was growth marketing. First, I taught myself digital marketing. So with everybody, what was marketing was creating content. So content marketing. We're diving deeper. People wanted me to learn how to do events, which was very normal for other marketers. I had never done an event in my life. And then I got into growth marketing because in tech startup, that's all that matters. It's the data, understanding user acquisition and retention. And that's how I really understood how to do data tracking. A lot of people always think that because they're posting on social media, they're already collecting data. I have to tell you, you're not. Maybe you are a little bit, but you do have to set up your accounts to track data in a proper way. And after you track the data, what does it mean? How did it get funneled into a dashboard? So things happen automatically for you instead of you just going post by post and seeing like I had so many people watch my stories, which is not really the most efficient way. So why data-driven matters? Creativity alone is not enough. Data alone just doesn't inspire people. And growth comes from bridging the two. A data marketer cannot be getting your engagement if they don't have quality content that you have engaged and liked. And then the creativity cannot be replicated if you didn't understand of like the 10 pieces of content that you put out there, which one of those actually resonated, got people to the website, or got people in that path that you have selected as your marketing journey. So that's why it's really important. And I want to say right now, we will talk about being viral. I love when people ask me as that is a KPI or a goal of the company. We just need to go viral. I can tell you right now, even if you go viral, which I know a lot of people haven't. First of all, we cannot, that is like saying with a magic wand that I'll make this campaign go viral. I can tell you it will be successful, and we'll establish what KPIs match success. And after we did that thoughtfully, we can actually replicate this. Replicating variability is very, very hard. And if anyone's here seen the most viral video ever on TikTok, I still don't understand how it went viral, because a woman is looking at a camera and just moving around, and that is the most viral video ever on TikTok. It means nothing to me. So let's go into, instead of diving first into what I recommend for you to be your tech stack and how to integrate softwares, let's go back into understanding how do we get here. So many of us have heard content is king if you're in marketing, but it really stems from Bill Gates in 1996 when he created an essay and posted it on his website to tell you about the future of marketing and the future of getting people's attention was to create high quality content. And that was very obvious to us now, but that was what stemmed it all. Then in 2008, we had this oversaturating. Now everybody had a blog, a podcast, a website. Now you didn't know where to look like. And of course, burned out started happening, especially because we didn't have any data to track what was working well. So people were just throwing spaghetti to the wall, and we had more content than quality. Actually, the guy here in the front, Art and I know each other from the beginning because there were very few people in the yachting space that were producing content. So we know almost all of them that started in the beginning because very few identified that digital marketing was the way forward in yachting. When we were creating content, we already started with creating content with a purpose, and we're tracking in a niche what we were going to go forward, mostly because I was coming from another industry, so they were already doing this. This was just new to the yachting space. 2008, 2011, that's when we started looking at algorithms. Social media platforms started developing algorithms. If you're in marketing, at one point you landed on a blog that said how we cracked the new Instagram algorithm, how we cracked this one, because obviously it's constantly changing. I would never tell people to rely on this. If you've never read one of these blogs, please read one just so you get a skim of what they're actually tracking. But they're constantly changing. There's things that will never change, from the quality of content. Please do A/B testing. When you're posting actually matters, and basically the qualitative things. And then other things do change, but we'll go deeper into that. Then, if you know Gary Vee, kudos for you. I got to work with Gary Vee, where it is content is king, but context is God. He added a new layer to qualitative content, because now we're talking about posting in context with everybody else, and that's when everybody knows about, well, we want to post at a specific time of the day. I actually, the other day, got my company asked me to post about a campaign that we were launching, and what I told them, and I was actually discussing this at breakfast with Art, is we don't want to post last week because we had 4 yachting events happening. Antigua, one in Turkey, one in Dubai, and there was a 4th one that neither of us can remember. But the thing is, if everybody's thinking of one thing and then you're posting up something that has nothing to do with it, people are just gonna keep scrolling. So you think because there's a lot of traffic out there, if you're not tying your content and your copy, your campaign to why people are tuning in, they were just gonna keep scrolling. So context obviously does matter. And then 2020 and to the present, dashboards. And no, we may not be data analytics, but I love that everyone expects us to be. So we have to now pay attention. Everything we spoke about before is your qualitative content, what metrics and KPIs we are tracking, all of them to be uploaded into a dashboard. If you don't know this yet, I'm happy to tell you the many softwares that will do this for you. So you can see this in the big picture, and you can start changing your strategy. Anyone have any questions, let me know. If not, we'll leave them for the end. So data turns insights into action and success into repeatable formula. I love this, and I'm sure you've said, if you have any clients and you're a marketer, if you said this before to someone else, it's like, what is your formula? When I did consulting, now I'm full-time, it was the first thing I would ask to understand how deep they had gone into understanding what works for them. Do they know what their target audience is? Do they already have their formula? Of course, the formula is going to keep changing, context keeps changing, and we're obviously working with the rest of the market, but have you even figured out what is your formula? And that's really what we want to go and continue to perfect it. Like I said, we're going to talk about going viral and scaling in strategy. So how many marketers in the room? Do we have any marketers in the room? Show of hands. Oh, cool. Great. I'm sure you've been asked about, please, how to go viral. And then how you can switch this up. It's like, let's establish what are your business goals, what are your KPIs, so we can actually lower expectations and make them understand what we're trying to do is success. They think success is viral, but now we're changing the conversation. Here, if you're in yachting and you've ever seen a walkthrough, chances are you have stumbled onto Naughty Style's account. They are the biggest YouTube platform in the whole industry for yacht walkthroughs. As you see, all the way to the left, there's 365,000 views, and at the bottom, 750,000. Both are insanely good numbers. However, there's double of the difference there. So she can't predict when one item's going to go viral, but she has tweaked her formula all the way to an extent that she knows what success is meant for her and what she can promise her clients. Anything above that, it's going to be depending on when things got launched, and she cannot promise, and she tells them every time. So even the biggest YouTube and influencers out there will never promise you how to go viral. Let's talk about strategic branding essentials. So the things that you really want to focus on, or the first thing is you want to be goal-oriented, audience-centric, differentiated, and consistent and measurable. Every item that Every project, every campaign that you do, obviously should have its own campaign, going back to the business goal. Audience-centric, we are talking to them. I love that we were talking about this before about how do you bring value to someone else? So that's what you're thinking. You're not thinking of like, how can I get them to my site? Is shift that mentality around to how can I bring value to this specific audience that obviously is going to be my customer. But when you start thinking of your audience first, the whole conversation actually changes on you. Differentiate, you definitely have to understand what market you are working with to see why is yours unique in that competitive landscape. Consistency, oh my God, how key is that? I want to know that every time I go to your website, I'm getting the exact same thing. Not that it's going to be a copy paste, in other words, spam, but obviously I want to know that it's everybody has a hotel chain they like or a chain restaurant. They know that every time, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, they're consistently going to get the same experience. And that's why where loyalty starts. And measurable. Please don't, anytime you put out something because there's a time pressure or a new campaign and you have to post it out there, please know that if you're not measuring those KPI or how that is going to perform, you sort of wasted your time there, because even if it is successful by chance because you did it on a whim, you will never know how to replicate it. Okay, here's 2 examples that everything they do stems back to those core values and value proposition. Even if you don't know them, you get a feel from them for absolutely everything they do. So if you're from the States or even they're big in Japan, you'll know Blue Bottle. So they're clean, modern, and consistent, focused on high quality, freshness, and craftsmanship. The reason they do this is because everything they do, from their logos to their furniture to how they actually interact with you, goes back to that value proposition and those business goals, even if you actually don't have them written in and you don't know them very well. The other one, Hermes, everyone here I'm sure knows, they are the epitome of timeless craftsmanship, exclusivity, and heritage. It doesn't matter if you're a tech company or anywhere you are, you want to crack how they created this desire to be part of their brand, how they continue to be top of mind when it comes to craftsmanship. You never think of them as being passé or old. They're going to be timeless. They still use that orange that I don't know how they got away with it, because every time I see that I think of Halloween if you're from the States. But the other thing that they cracked is, and I forgot the name of the famous bag all the way to the top, but that one has years of wait list and it's extremely expensive. So even if you have the means to purchase it, you have to be part of this exclusive club to even be part of that list. So everyone would love to have customers that are at your door for you to be deemed part of your customers. A lot of people think when they think of branding, they stop at the visual cues. But I want you guys to think more about value proposition. Aside from the visual language are colors, forms, spatial identity, tone of voice. Very few companies, when I start working with them, do understand what tone of voice means, and audience alignment. So here are actually all the other cues that I would love for you to think about. What is your brand purpose? What is the mission statement, vision statement? I think everyone that at least went to school at some point had to actually write these on an essay, but all the ones that are yellow are so important. What is the value proposition? What are the unique properties of your company, of your brand, that make you different from the other ones? So you want to write at least 3 of them, and every social media copy, email, messaging that you do has to go back to those 3 reasons of why you are different. Core values. What is your beliefs and how are you executing those value proposition? Your brand personality. If your brand was a person, what personality adjectives are you using to describe them? Tone of voice. When I'm writing here, am I being casual? Am I being very corporate? Am I being clinical? Am I being very technical when I'm writing? All these magazines that you have outside have a different tone of voice to attract a different audience. This is so important. So every time I'm your social media or something else, especially now that we have ChatGPT, grab those adjectives that you like. I want to be bold. I want to be personable. I want to be casual. I wanted them to feel they're talking to a friend. Write your copy and tell them, this is my tone of voice, correct it so people actually see those 4 adjectives, and you're actually done now. But you need to obviously write that document. To write that document, I do recommend you going into your other competitors and understanding what their tone of voice is. If you don't know, grab a copy, put it in ChatGPT and say, extract here the tone of voice. Very easy now. Target audience. there's something in tech that we call is product market fit. So understanding your product is resonating with who, and then start understanding target audience. I actually have an example of PayPal. Back in the day, PayPal was the founder, I don't remember his objective, but it was completely different from what it is now. And what happened was there was an app where people sell items that were used. eBay, is it where people actually, well, eBay, and then the founder kept getting mad because they found PayPal and they were using it to do their payment transactions. He was mad because it wasn't his intention. So he kept making blocks and paywall content so they wouldn't get to his site until he finally realized, these are my people. These are the people, they found me, they're using my platform. So he pivoted his whole storyline for them to be his target audience. So understand your target audience, start listening to what people are saying about you, and then hone in and double down on them. Brand proposition, again, we talked about this. Your logo, your visual cues, that encompasses everybody else. Key messaging. After you know your value proposition and the core values, just start identifying what is the key items that you want, especially if you have people that are speaking about on your behalf. You can't have the one that really knows branding and marketing always be next to you when you're talking about your company. So write them a cheat sheet of what they should be saying every time they're getting asked about the company. What's the brand story? Storyline and storytelling has come more into the forefront lately when people know that they're not connecting with something that sounds corporate, but with a story that talks about them and takes them through how they got into where they are. And people really connect with storytelling. Visual identities, the goals, KPIs, key performance identifiers, basically those success metrics that we are gonna use to evaluate if we were successful, customer experience, and brand guidelines. Anyone that deals with customers understand that your customer experience is gonna be key for your success because it costs us, I think it's 5x to 25x more expensive to get a new customer in than you get a repeat customer. So after you get the customer through the door, please analyze their customer experience because it's gonna be cheaper for you and more effective to convert an existing customer. And the brand guidelines. So when I join a company and they send me, we have a brand document. It has the 3 colors, our logos, that's our brand guidelines. That's not true. I can grab those 3 colors, give it to 5 different people, and they're gonna be used completely different. From those 3 colors being used at the same time, being overlapped, being used as gradients, or someone just grabbing them to be an accent in a big picture. So making sure that any person that sees your documents understands exactly how to use them. For example, if I give my logo to someone else, I will have, you're not only allowed to use this in my color brand, you're only allowed to use this if you leave a space surrounding the logo. So there are a lot of specifics for you because you're giving these logos in your brand to someone else when you're doing a partnership. So they represent you exactly how you intend them to. I think everyone here knows who Airbnb is. And I'm not going to go through the story of how they got founded, but I just wanted to show you that maybe you didn't know the 2014, the rebrand and the logo that we have today. They changed from the one to the top to the bottom because they wanted to have a heart shape, and that also looks like a pointing for where you actually have a location. So they went to a whole rebrand of understanding who are their users, and they wanted you to feel that you were attached to their brand with the emotions of love. And that's how that was a little example of how you can change when you actually start listening to your audience. Value props, company core, and main KPI. As you see, they all have to work together to actually have your company stand out. Again, value propositions are the unique features or messaging that your company has. What you believe in is your company core, and your main KPIs are the main measurable results that you're going to use to evaluate if something was successful or not. I actually recommend even having your company cores directly on your website. That way anyone that comes to your website not only sees the story and connects with you, but also connects with you further when you use your company core and tell them what you are about. I actually, if you look at me online on LinkedIn, there's an about section of anyone's profile. I have that, I think, maxed out to the last character. And I have thrown everything in there to see if you don't connect with me because I'm an immigrant from Venezuela, maybe you'll connect with me because I have 4 language. Maybe you'll connect with me because I did rugby. I even investigated someone when I was doing an interview. on social media, I felt like a spy or a stalker. Either way, I think they're interchangeable, to see what they liked, to make sure that I set that on my pitch. But either way, it was a way for me to showcase all the different sites that I have to be able to connect with you. So I would do that with your core values. Measurable branding. I think everyone has heard about making your awareness, metric types, engagement, and conversion. Of course, there are different ways to track each of them. Awareness, brand recognition, recall mentions. We were just at the outside and I saw a magazine that I said, I know I have to pay attention to this one because it sounds familiar. They have penetrated awareness so much with me. I don't know much about them, but I know that they must be really good because I now recognize them. So awareness is really, really important. Some people actually don't think and they go straight to conversion, but you definitely have to do penetrate with awareness for people to actually get all the way to trust, loyalty, and convert, and then loyalty. Engagement, very easy to track. Likes, share, comments, clicks, and thoughts. Every social media platform helps you to engagement because it helps you to track engagement, because that's how the way they know if your content is resonating or not. And then the conversion that will change, vary between all of us. If it's a sign up, go to my website, download a form, and XYZ. But then here are the tools that I want to get to, and I'm going really fast because this is what I focus on. If you're talking about awareness, how am I tracking that awareness actually happened? And we have a lot of social media platforms and a lot of software that are just focused on that. So brand decision, you want to analyze the data, create your insights of what that data means, and then go back to optimized branding. We try to do this actually weekly. Every week, seeing if you're producing a lot of campaigns, understanding on a weekly basis if you're doing paid campaign, if you're reaching your KPIs, or you have to adjust what content is getting you the conversions that you need. And I'm sure everyone here has heard of A/B testing. So want to create a piece of content, tweak them slightly, and push them out there so you can start seeing what differentiates visuals, messaging, and CTA. Sorry, I'm going really fast. Data foundations for marketers. Show of hands here is already collecting data. Okay, great. Then there's how to analyze the data after you collect it. But why lead data with your campaigns? Why let data guide your campaigns? The reason being because if we are collecting data and analyzing and understanding it, that's how we can actually repeat this formula that I was speaking to before. But marketing tech stack is the second question I would ask when I see your company. First is, do you have a brand guidelines? What are your value proposition? What are your core values? And what is your marketing tech stack that I already know that you have already tried and tested and is collecting this data for you? So over here, we have multiple programs that will help you. I think I put all the ones that I trusted here, but there's many more. So here you have data to analytical platforms, CRM, so customer database, marketing tech, tracking and data collection, customer-led management. So I'm going to start with the top. Someone tells me, I don't know if we're actually penetrating brand awareness. And there's some platforms that do something called social listening. In other words, they're listening to everything that's happening on the internet to understand, are people talking about your company in a positive way, in a negative way? What words are they using to describe your company? This is a great tool. That one on the top, it's called Meltwater and Sprout Social. I really like them because it's a very easy way to understand if what you were intending to do is actually being, actually being engaged and how people are reacting to it. Later in Hootsuite are great ones to, after you have your content, you have to distribute your content. You want to connect your social media accounts and everywhere you are distributing your content on one software. So that way that when you produce your content, you can tell it this piece of content now posted on these 5 pages instead of like now logging into each of them to now distribute content. Creating content and distributing content also take a long time, so you just want to have it all in a centralized place. HubSpot does same as the one above, and it also has email and CRM. Salesforce is CRM. Mixpanel you'll probably use only if you're like, you have an app, because it tracks everything that you're doing on your app software, and it analyzes who is your audience and what is your target audience. So great for product market fit. Google Analytics, I think at this point everybody knows, but when you create a website, it doesn't mean that you're already tracking the traffic that goes on your website. Make sure you connect it with Google Analytics so you understand what people are doing on your site. Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. MailChimp, one of the easiest ones to send out emails. Airtable for me is Google Sheets on steroids, because it makes it very user-friendly for everyone to see the same data set and then create different visualizations depending on what they're tasked with. For example, you and I may have everyone that attended this conference, but I may only be interested in the people that came from abroad and their first name. You may be interested in who attended the first and the second and the third day. So we can see the same data, the same columns, but in my view, I only see 2 columns to make it easy for me to stay super focused. So that's Airtable. And Google BigQuery is when you actually grab all these platforms, you actually have to integrate them into where the data is collected from. If you have big data sets, they actually end up in Google BigQuery, and then they get distributed for where you actually see the analytics. To simplify it, these are the steps for creating the content and actually going into analytics. Data collection setup, as I said, the softwares where you're posting the information doesn't mean they are set up already to collect the data as you want. So you want to go into your account settings and making sure that that is now integrated into the rest of your software, and then you have optimized it into marketing, influencer mode, or something that gives you a different data set. Content creation, now you have your creatives creating the content with those branding guidelines, core values, and value proposition to create the different pieces of content. Now, after you post it, you do the analysis from the reports. You adjust the content depending on what the analysis tells you, and then you start doing A/B testing to get information faster. And then rinse and repeat. You do this all over multiple times. This is sort of what that looks like. You have your piece of content at the top, and then immediately below you have a few of those KPIs depending on what the company is actually tracking. These are social media, Facebook, TikTok, paid media. So on the top we have exactly how much we spent, how it costs us to get that user, and our main goal was installs of our software. So we can see here which pieces of content we thought were going to resonate and which ones actually resonated.
So attendees.
Yeah.
So Max is asking what you mean as a KPI.
KPI, key performance metric. It's the goal that I have selected for each of these campaigns. So for example, a KPI may be the awareness. It could be the money spent, the number of installs. These are the data points that I'm using to track if a campaign actually did well or underperformed. So KPIs are many. It depends on your goals. If I'm doing awareness, it will be a different number of KPIs. If I'm doing installs, retention. So there's multiple KPIs that you can be looking at. This is another way from one of our presentations of how we can see if something is resonating. So all the way to the top, you have the different channels that we posted on, how much we spent, how much the impressions would be one of those KPIs, how many people clicked on that piece of content, CTR at this moment, I'm losing my mind, result, CPA conversion and paid acquisition, and CVR. I think this was an email, so I forgot. But either way, right below we have what are the observations, and below we would actually have what were our insights and how we are going to adjust our analysis to continue to produce content. This is when we're trying to define what's that formula. Data tells us where to be creative. It shows us what's working, where audience lose interest, and which ideas deserve amplification. So now in integrated strategy roadmap. It's the brand identity, the customer journey, tracking setup, optimizing points, analyze, aligned campaigns. I can't say enough about the tone of voice. People keep posting and creating content, and then every piece of content has a different tone of voice, a different messages. They don't stay consistent. So this is part of that consistency. A lot of people see consistency when it comes to the visuals and not the captions themselves. So that's one of the things I see the most missing. So here are the main ones that we want to focus on: core story, value proposition, visual identity, and the tone of voice. Core story, this is a narrative that explains who the brand is, what it stands for, and why it exists. Value proposition, a concise statement that communicates the unique value of your brand. Visual identity that we see here, different color tones and what makes your brand look. That people identify it visually. And the verbal identity, those tone of voice. So here we actually have these words that I was saying that you can use on your prompt. I want to sound playful, respectful, smart, unapologetic, snarky, sympathetic. These, or all the way to the top, that's what I was talking about, social listening, that you can tell, that you can ask these softwares to tell you what words are people using to identify my brand. So you can understand how it's resonating with everybody. The marketing funnel, we've all seen it. It's very tried and true. We start with awareness. People are considering if they want to buy our product. They buy it. And then we have to focus on loyalty and advocacy, so we focus on customer retention. And that way we don't have to start the funnel all over again. I actually want to say that once we actually tried to cut this funnel in half and move all the way from like getting someone from social media all the way to the conversion. So we were doing A/B testing with the marketing funnel and seeing how we would grab that way that you would purchase the item and had a little bit more verbiage on it to see if it was enough. Because sometimes when you, from awareness, you land them, the person comes into your store and they land on the website. Sometimes your website is not set up for the people to understand why they have to be there and go all the way to the shopping cart. And what you did was, now you gave them too many options and they got distracted and never went to purchasing. So that was another way of A/B testing. Cutting up the funnel and going straight from the social media post where you attracted them straight to the shopping cart and then see if they bought. And this formula worked so well with us, we never got them through our website. We used the website only for people that wanted to find us organically on Google, but everybody that was paid media went directly to the shopping cart. Events and triggers. Every reaction that people do online can be bundled up into an event. And I would do that by going into a software and telling it, for example, on Mixpanel, that's all the way to your bottom left, and saying, every time someone opens a website, that's an event. Everyone that goes from a website from the top of the page all the way to the bottom, but using my scrolly to the right, that's another event. That way, you can decipher how many events make sense for you to understand who is that user. So then you can see, oh, I thought that from doing this landing page, they would obviously go to the second one when they wanted to know more, and they actually jumped all the way to the shopping cart. So that's why you want to set up, this is definitely a hypothesis, what do you think the event should be? And then you start seeing which actually makes sense. And then the other ones, if you actually want to look further, is another ways to visualize the same data. Because right now we're talking about a few events here. And then the triggers is, after they see the event, that the event is scrolling, do they scroll or not? That is the trigger that takes you to like, oh, this event actually did happen. And those you have to also identify as like, oh, that is trigger one, and actually they executed the event that I'm describing. This is what I focus on the most, is automation. I don't know anyone here, but many times these companies have sole entrepreneurs, have either one person in marketing or the business owner wants to do it all. To be able to do it all, you really want to double down on those at that marketing tech stack. Having someone, a consultant, integrate them all for you. That way, when someone scrolls down from here, an email gets sent, a social media post gets done. But to actually make them, right now they're all talking to each other. That's what integration is. And automation is when you said, oh, when they scroll down, and I know that they did that through this trigger. Now what happens next? Do they get an email? Do they get an invitation to join me at the next conference? Does a pop-up window show up on my website? So that's when the audience gets signals, and automation engine I use one that's called Zapier that you can tell it from my email campaign. They clicked on this. Now they moved into my audience of people that like clicking this button that means speaking engagement. Now from there, they get an email inviting them into my next engagement. So you're now customizing that user journey. And there's platforms that do these triggers, automation, like Zapier, but there are many, many more that speak to each other. I get asked all the time how I do all of this, and it's because I have a friend that's called Zapier and then moves everyone along while I'm sleeping. Automation. Retargeting. Many times, I forgot the number, but I think it's 10x in the US. How many times do you have to tell a new customer or a new visitor about your product before they actually make that purchase? So you want to identify the ones that are new to your page and the ones that actually have been there multiple times so you can start retargeting. Retargeting can be from taking them back to the website or sending them now that they were there once, now they get this social post that tells them a little bit more about your product, a little bit more until they get to that purchasing stage. So that's what you want to do, identify the audience that was already there first, so they move them along into a retargeting stage. So visitor, user site, the visitor leaves, you give them an ad, and then you bring them back to your site to get them to purchase. If you've never seen a content distribution software, this is just one of those. This one's called Later. It looks like your normal Google Calendar, but then on them you have all the posts that are going to be distributed. And if you see all the way to the right, or the way to the top, it's already identified what channels you're talking about content being distributed on. As you know, you may have the same piece of content, video, a graphic, an article, and the content piece or the visual thing looks the same, but then you have that your audience on Twitter wants something more catchier. Your audience on LinkedIn wants to be more descriptive. Your audience on Instagram, the caption needs to be shorter and a little bit more fun. So you are able to duplicate your content and then just go into custom mode and getting every caption to be different. So definitely use a distribution platform so you don't have to, everything that you do manual, always stop yourself and think, is there something automatic that already exists for me? And then always stop yourself and thinking, am I doing too much? As a recap, we talked about brand, data, insights, creative execution, measurement, and optimization. Optimization is that comes when you're always analyzing your data, understanding what works, optimizing, listening to your data, and then that's when you do the rinse and repeat. You have any questions? Okay, frequently asked questions I get is, what tech stack should I have? I get people researching online and say, oh, this one's the most expensive one and does 20 things when the other one that you're recommending to me only does 10. And I tell them, use the one that only does exactly what you need it to. Yes, you want some that leave you room to grow, but talk to your marketing because it may be a chance that you never want to actually grow in that direction. And when you have softwares that do all these things, looks great, but they mean that you need to input the data in a very customized way. So you may be now taking a lot longer to use the software. It's a longer learning curve than the one that's a lot simpler. So I would actually always go with the one that's simpler. Another question that I actually get is between this one and the other one, which one should I use? I would stay away with software that is coming from a tech startup or one that it's new. You want to grab one even though it looks new and shiny and they're like top of the new trends that I didn't even know existed. I recommend if you're new to go to one that's been around longer because they tend to have more users writing in feedback online and having gone through the same errors that you're going through. For example, MailChimp, if you're going to use email software, you can find a video that's like 10 seconds long for absolutely every mistake that you had no idea that you can make. I can't find my audience. I don't know how to tag people. What is tag? What is exporting? And they really make it bite-sized content, so you're not watching a video that takes you 2 hours to watch. So if you're going to pick a software, go from one that's simpler for you to use, because if it's only going to be you, understand your capabilities. And second, how much content is there out there for you to understand how to use it, because you will get stuck. We all get stuck. Yeah.
When you go, I don't know if you can go back in your slides, but you were talking about content buckets. I think it was a couple of slides ago when you were talking about, yes, wait, go back a minute. Yeah, so right at the bottom it said creative bucket, vision, sound, feature call out, and end. Are you guys kind of creating those buckets before, like when you plan out your content? And if so, how do you tie that back into your automation when you go into that later slide?
Mm-hmm.
Do you just post the same thing on all of the channels, or do you create it custom based off these buckets?
So, great question. When you want to do a strategy for your campaigns, you do hypothesize when your brand needs, what's the messaging that you want to carry out? What are the different messages that you want to talk about? For example, at the Navier company that I'm working on right now, we want to make sure that our company is the first one you think about the hydrofoil technology. So we need to talk about technology. We need to be talking about the events that we're going, so people before we get to the event actually communicate with us. So there's certain, and then people want to understand their branding. So these are examples of, like, for example, 3 buckets that we have. Those 3 buckets, I'm going to strategize, okay, when it comes to technology, what are the different ways that people understand that I know technology? So those are the 3 buckets, and then the multiple ways that we can talk about. So we do those way in advance, and then that's when we start posting the different ways that we can talk about those buckets and see which ones actually work. And then that's when we go back into the rinse and repeat and see, we really wanted this to work, but we saw that we wanted it to work without listening to our audience that did not care about that at all. So it's up to us to understand, it doesn't matter if my audience cares or not about me posting about technology and no one's listening or saving it, whatever. It's up to you if you want to keep posting on it, because you need that when people look at your content, always read this article, even if maybe it's a way that your company brand, it's a mission statement, so you have to keep it up there because of your investors, so someone that rarely engage with you. And then you have other stuff that it's this piece of content, it's talking about technology, the same bucket, but this one's going to go viral. This is going to be shareable. This is going to get engagement. So you are using the same bucket, but using different ways that are people are engaging with to get you to different goals. So yeah, we do it before, and when you go into the content the distribution platform like later, I actually try to keep the names of the files as short as possible. So if it would be something like this, trending sound, yeah, the names would actually be there. Because in this first one slide all the way to the end, it's TikTok. And if you've ever actually posted on TikTok, you'll know that a lot of stuff gets picked up depending on the sound you use. So many times we were trying to get our message out just by leveraging other sounds that were relevant to the TikTok platform, because the platform's algorithm works on pushing content if they use a trending sound. That's part of their algorithm. So we're thinking about like how this platform actually works to produce the content. So that's why only on TikTok we were thinking of a trending sound. But thank you. I hope that answered your question. Anyone else? Okay. I think that's it. Thank you so much.